Hello from Hamburg, Germany. Today we get to our second installment of the leather jacket company analysis in Power BI, and we're going to load all the data that we have so far, and we're going to transform them and do some first analyses about margin. These are the Excel workbooks we're going to need, and some of them contain several sheets, which we will then transform and combine. We already have these tables from the last installment, so let's get the rest. New source, Excel workbook, and we're just going to work down the list. Take that. That's all been properly recognized. Get the next one. The customers we already have. Maybe we're going to need the materials. So far I have not needed them. I've done some tryouts, but won't hurt to have them. Got properly recognized. And we're going to need the material cost. And this one has more tables. Going to take them all, but that will take a bit of transforming. The fact sales table probably needs the deepest operation. We have the amounts and the position prices in columns, so we immediately think of unpivot. But if I do not know any way to unpivot both at the same time, the position prices and the amount. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to duplicate this table and change one version in the way that it only has the amounts, and another version that it only has the position prices. I'm going to unpivot them both and then merge them. Going to name this position price. So I know this is the one that will keep the position price, and I'm going to throw out the amounts. Name the other one position amounts, or just amounts. Now I can unpivot these columns. That's a decimal, that's perfect. And this one, I'm going to do a replace values. So I have the product ID in them. I'm going to replace space, pose price with nothing. Then I can change the date type to a whole number and rename it prod ID. Okay, now I can unpivot this one, call it position amount, do replace values here, space amount, replace with nothing, make it prod ID, change the data type to whole number. Now I'm ready to merge the two, and from the second one I'm just going to need the amount. Okay, I'm gonna merge them via the invoice number and the product ID. Now I can expand. I do not want the original name as prefix. And all I really want from that one is the position amount. I renamed this one work table, and I'm just going to disable load for the other ones. With the material costs, I'm going to have to do some header promoting and some unpivoting and then some combining via merge. All right, that's great. Yeah, I'm going to rename the column 1 later. Oh, see, with this one I got again, like this happens sometimes with Excel imports, you get empty columns. But doesn't matter. Unpivot, please. ID and labor costs. Do the same with leather costs. This time I can just do unpivot other columns. No, first promote headers, you genius. First promote the headers. And it's going to be the same process for every material cost table, so we'll meet again when that's done. Time for the merging. I'm going to merge them all as new, one by one. And I always only need the respective sort of cost. I'm going to match them through column 1 and the product ID. Can expand, and I really just only want the leather cost, and I do not want the prefix, the original name. So leather has been added, and it's going to be the same for every table, so we'll meet again when that's done. Those are in now. I'm just going to add a custom column that adds up all the direct costs. Of course, I'm not adding up the number made. That wouldn't make any sense. Interesting, that's not recognized as a decimal number, although it is. And we're good to go with this one. On second thought, let's add another custom column that gives us the direct costs per item. Direct costs each. We have the whole sum divided by number made. Now I want to add two calculated columns in the table view, which are the direct costs each and the sales price each. Interesting, that took a little bit of convincing, but I didn't really change the formula, but now it works. All right, now with the sales, I want the sales price each, which is obviously the position price, divided by the position amount. Well, of course, it turns out in this place I better use the divide function because we have a few zero values. One question that will probably come up at some point is how many days until people pay their bills. So I'm going to do a custom column. Make that into a whole number. And we have that, if the question arises, which it most likely will. Now let's take care of the relationships, some of which have already been recognized by the software automatically. Not all of them. I like to put the tables, if it's possible, I like to open the table so I can see all fields. All right, anything that relates to customers, of course, needs a relationship, but that's only the fact sales table, and they're connected to the country table, which is good. Anything that has a date in it needs a relationship with the date table. That looks like it's done. Anything that relates to the product needs a connection to the product table, of course. I mean, if we later I asked about analysis about the pay date, I'm going to establish another relationship, an inactive relationship with a pay date in the data table, and then if necessary I use the use relationship function. But for now, I think we're good to go. Now we need some margin measures. Gonna put these in the fact sales table. So the first general margin 1, that was an easy one. With the other two, I was fiddling a bit. Now with the margin each, I have two problems. Number one, I do not have the sales and the costs at the same granularity because I have the costs monthly and I have several sales invoices per month. So that I solved with the average function. There I get results that are very, very close. They're very much close enough. And the other problem is that in some months there have been no invoices outgoing. So when I subtract the direct costs from the sales positions, I get negative values where there are no negative values. In that case, I have to exclude any negative values. So when I just do the simple subtraction, as you see in this formula, I get negative values if I put this into a matrix. But these negative values do not exist because those jackets were not sold in that month. So I've done it with an if function, saying if this is bigger than 0, then give me that, otherwise give me 0. Now in order to get the margin by position, I multiply margin each by the amount of pieces sold in each position. And then there are things you only realize as you're working with the data. I wanted to have my first graph about margin here by the development of margin over the years. But when I do it with product name, I only get 2 lines. Why? Because we have 3 different sizes, but only 2 product names. Therefore, we're gonna have another column that combines the name and the size. And I guess the quickest for me right now is to do column by examples for this one. See, 1 attempt, software got it. We can work with that. Now we can already see they have a very similar trajectory. Now I wanted to know which products have contributed the most to the margin over the years in total, and I was quite surprised to find such differences. So I put the amounts sold under it, and yeah, it seems there's a lot less smaller guys and a lot more large guys. That would explain that. Okay, let's do one more visual exploration for this installment. I wanted to know about the structure of the direct costs. We have labor, leather, lining, other materials, which is like yarn and rivets and small stuff, and zipper costs. Want to see how they have changed over the years and how the relations are between them and if they differ very much between the products. Of course, they have gone up in absolute numbers over the years because more and more jackets have been made. But yeah, the relations have hardly changed at all. Of course, there is a bit of a difference with the S1 with the labor cost, because the material is a little bit less, but the time doesn't change much in making a small, a medium, or a large one. So that was to be expected. It's not much. I mean, there's very little difference from product to product. It's tiny. I have found that pie and donut charts are only useful if there are really big differences between the numbers. Otherwise, I now use more column or bar charts. The relations hardly change at all. A tiny little bit. Yeah, so then we're at the end of this installment. And the next time we're going to drill deep and build some standard reporting. As usual, have fun, Godspeed, see you next time.